California Senator Alex Padilla wants to help expand the way immigrants obtain legalization in the United States.
He's joining us now for a deeper insight into what he's proposing. Senator Padilla, thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And of course, this is happening in light of all we've seen with the immigration rates here and all across the country. So explain this legislation and what inspired you to update what's known as the Registry Bill, because this is going to help more people who've been in the country,
almost
contributing to the country, become citizens possibly.
Right. So I think the beauty of this proposal is that we're not creating a new bureaucracy. There's no new agency or program. The registry mechanism has been in federal law for 100 years. It allows people who may be undocumented in the United States, but who have lived here 7 years or more, have been paying their taxes, don't have that violent criminal history, to be able to take a first step in applying towards legal status and then residency, and maybe some point in the future citizenship. But first things first, a legal status to be able to come out of the shadows. When the law was first put on the books, of course, it had a deadline. And over the course of the last century, that deadline has been updated a few times, the last time being under Republican President Ronald Reagan, who talked about this being a basic issue of fairness. So all this bill suggests is let's bring it up to modern times and allow people in the United States currently who have been here for 7 years or more, and again, have been playing by the rules, to be able to come out of the shadows and take steps towards legalization. And the timing is not a coincidence. We've seen the extreme overreach of the current administration in how they're enforcing the laws, how they're detaining so many people and deporting people even without due process. There has to be a better way, and I think this is part of it.
I was reading it can also help dreamers. Not only would people have to live here for 7 years, they could not have a criminal background or record, and they'd have to meet some existing requirements. On the surface, this sounds like reform that's been talked about for years and years, and most Americans in polling agree should take place. But as we've seen, it's never actually crossed the finish line. Why do you think that could happen now with this bill?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that the timing is actually helpful. As you mentioned, when you ask the American public, there's broad support. It's not Republicans, it's not Democrats, it's everybody by and large. But the political will hasn't necessarily been there in Congress. So what's different today? Well, we've seen how cruel this administration has gone about deporting undocumented immigrants. I think people that are seeing the cruelty in the streets, not just in Los Angeles, but especially in Southern California, and thinking that's not what they signed up for. Everybody who supported Donald Trump in the election last November, they knew immigration was a priority, but not like this. So with the public awareness at much higher levels, and I think public sympathy and understanding for the value that immigrants bring to our communities and to our economy, then now's the time for a proposal like this. And let me be very, very clear. If the administration was simply going after dangerous, violent criminals like they talk about so often, there would be no debate, there would be no discussion, there would be no disagreement. But we've seen in practice, the reality is the vast majority of people that they're rounding up, arresting, detaining, even deporting, many without due process, do not have violent criminal history or criminal convictions on their record. And so they may be undocumented, but if they've been here a while, building families, paying taxes, contributing to the strength of our economy, they deserve to come out of the shadows. And again, this is just a first step towards legal status.
Right. And of course, I'm sure you're anticipating pushback to this from what we've seen with the immigration raids and how some people feel about immigrants who have been here illegally getting the chance to come in legally. But we do have immigrants in our community right now literally afraid to leave their homes, afraid to go to schools, afraid to go to the grocery store, some of them being detained at immigration hearings. So how would they even feel comfortable, even if this passes, to go in and submit their paperwork to get something like this done?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question, and part of what we need to work through. But I do think the mood is shifting, not just around the country, but even amongst members of Congress. When you have Republican members of Congress suggesting that there has to be a better way in terms of what opportunities we afford people who may be undocumented but are otherwise law-abiding citizens who have been working, paying taxes, et cetera, Representative Steve Scalise, for example, from Louisiana, the #2 ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. Even he gets it. So you know something is changing, and I'm hoping that creates an opening not just for a change in the law and update to the registry, but a policy change in how this administration is going about things.
You know, you also wrote, your office wrote, not only would this help potentially 8 million migrants, but it would bring $121 billion into the U.S. economy and $35 billion in taxes. How would that happen?
Yeah, well, these are folks who are working and paying taxes into programs that they don't even benefit from. They're not eligible to benefit from. But once you have the certainty of legal protection, legal status, many people do take steps forward of pursuing better jobs and maybe pursuing an educational opportunity that will qualify them for a better job. And when a better job pays more and you end up contributing more in taxes to the federal level, the state level, and local level, as a result, that is good for the economy. And lastly, let me mention this in terms of economic impact. At the very end of the first Trump administration, it was the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And even Trump's Department of Homeland Security at the time designated workers in certain sectors as essential. Workers in construction, workers in transportation, workers in agriculture and the food supply chain, healthcare, hospitality, etc. They now seem to be the target of these detention deportation rates. That's a very cruel irony. So let's remind this administration, let's remind Donald Trump that he wants to declare this group essential. It's time to start treating them as such.
But really quickly, Elon Musk's America PAC on X is saying you're now trying to codify what has been the plan all along for Democrats, which is importing new Democratic voters. How are you going to get past that type of, you know, that's the thinking for a lot of people?
Yeah, well, it's thinking for some people. It's a lot of rhetoric is what it is, because this is not about importing more people. This is about better treatment, about better respect and dignity for people who have been in the United States. Didn't just arrive yesterday. Again, this bill says 7 years or more with all the requirements that you outlined recently. So this is not just, doesn't just make sense for immigrant families, but for our national security, for our economy, and our greater interests.
All right, well, we'll continue to follow if it makes any progress, and we'd love to have you back if it does. Senator Padilla, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.